Wow. Wow. It's all I can say. What have I just watched? One of the greatest, if not the greatest match of Super Rugby in the whole 20-year history. That's right, welcome along, and I'm here to have a chat to you guys, a match review, if you will, of the Super Rugby Grand Final. Wow, the game just finished 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago. The Twitter has been going insane, so you guys that were joining in on the conversation on Twitter, thank you, and thanks for a great chat. It was a fantastic match to watch. You can join me on Twitter as well, the handle at Cornflakes Crib. Get in behind there. I post a lot of stuff during matches, but this game was out of this world. I said many a times on that it was just so electric. The Super Rugby Grand Final. So many things to be said, so many points to discuss. Where do we start? I have no idea. So much happened. I am going to miss out something very important, but my little scribble down of notes from that match here, I'm going to go through and have a little chat about what my huge turning points of that game were, and just speechless stuff. It took me 20 minutes to get to this point where I can calm down enough and literally talk about what just happened. So we're going to start things off at the beginning. The Super Rugby Grand Final. Thanks for joining me for this little review of the match, starting back at the start. It was the Hurricanes at home against the Highlanders. Of course, if you're watching this, you know all about that. The Grand Final, the big one. 1 and 2 on the ladder. Semi-final winners. Call it what you like. It had the makings of what could have been a fantastic match, and boy oh boy, well, the rugby gods, call them whatever you like, the players absolutely did not disappoint. Big news for the start of the match was that Ardie Savea was going to be out. Callum Gibbons coming to the number 7 jumper in his place. You know, not surprising. In the end, it was pretty much expected. I saw pictures of him during the week at training. He had pretty much a cast on his leg. It was pretty abysmal stuff. So he was gone. No surprise there. A bit disappointing, but wow. The match did not disappoint. And in Wellington, anyone from Wellington, anyone at that match, boy, you put on a show. That first half was just humming. It was buzzing. It was loud. It was electric. It was electric. One of the greatest New Zealand rugby atmospheres I've seen for quite some time. So plenty of points to go on about in this match here. Starting off the match here, it started out exactly like I said in the preview. Exactly how I wanted to see it. Neither side changing their game plan. Two of the best back threes you'll see in Super Rugby, and the best backlines as well. And you want to see them attack, and that is exactly what they did. Thank goodness for that, which was amazing. The game was phenomenal. The Highlanders, though, they were the ones that got off to the better start, though, and I think mainly down to their game plan, which we'll discuss further on as we have in the past couple of weeks about the Highlanders. The way they play and their planning is huge. But the thing that struck me the most at the start there was their set piece, especially at scrum time. The way they lined out their backline players. The things of putting, a Sopoaga at scrum half and firing out to Aaron Smith, I should say, to distribute through the rest of the backline. That's a masterstroke. Aaron Smith is a man at the top of his game, no question about that. But his vision, his pass, are two of the best skills of the rugby player that he is. His passing is, his passing's great. It's bullet-like, it's fast, it's flat, and it's straight to the man. And him playing a first receiver like that in some set pieces was a bit of a masterstroke from the Highlanders. Then from there, he had options. Here's Sopoaga. He's got Osborne. He's got Naholo. He's got Fekatoa out there. He has all the options, and he's a clever cookie. He knows where to put the ball. So the start was absolutely phenomenal. It was electric. It was buzzing. The scores weren't flowing. It was a penalty to the Highlanders that led for most of the match. But then this no-name pack of the Highlanders, these bunch of nobodies that everyone has written off, all throughout the season, even in the semi-final, coming into the final, they were still written off. They were still this nobody pack that really people were just waiting for them to fail, waiting for them to come back down to earth, come back down to their own reputation of level that they've been given. It didn't happen. This pack was still getting better and better. A scrum turnover in the first half. That is just an example of how well they played. You know, man of the match coming from that forward pack. Honig was absolutely amazing. They were just not letting up. And the Hurricanes just couldn't get into the game. They were shut out, like we've seen the Highlanders' opponents the last 2 weeks, the Waratahs and the Chiefs. Again, not being let out of their own half, not being given the opportunities to play. The Highlanders' defence was running back and it was getting in support so quickly, faster than the attacking support as well. The match started off so fast-paced, such long passages of play. It was just going on and on and on, and they're just quick throw-ins, and neither side was giving an inch. It made for absolutely an amazing first half of rugby. You just cannot express how much, how good, and how fast, how skillful that first half of rugby was. It was just top-class stuff, and like was mentioned on Twitter, if the All Blacks can play like that this year, there is going to be little hope of anyone stopping them as well. That was an amazing comment. I'll try to find out who exactly said that as well, but you know, that was so true. That was the way they were playing so fast, and it was Andreas Pilser. Thanks for that comment. You're so right when you say that. It was just so good, so fast, so electric. So the long passage of plays, you know, you're thinking, how long can this last? How long will it go on? The kicking is something that did concern me, however, especially that of Beauden Barrett. Looking forward to international sides, he was pretty off, and you have to say, if he got all of his kicks, we go back to this hindsight thing, the Hurricanes should have and could have won this match. The first 20 minutes was definitely owned by the Highlanders. They dominated that, and everything was going straight into their breadbasket, straight into their milk and bread. Everything, the basics were going well for the Highlanders, and the Hurricanes were struggling, but they still looked like they could break out and explode into the game at any point. At the end of the first half, some big things happened. The Canes started coming back into the match. There was breaks everywhere, as always. There was huge hits coming in. Massive defence as well. It was massive on both sides of this camp as well. They were big hits from both sides. Massive runs, breaking tackles. But the Canes were coming back. And then the unthinkable happened. Dying minutes of the first half, Elliot Dixon, oh my good lord. Well, if you haven't seen this try, if you have not seen the match, I recommend you watch the whole match. But if you didn't see anything, you don't have the time or the desire, at least if you're a rugby fan, watch the try by Elliot Dixon right on the stroke of half-time. I have seen nothing like that from this Southern forward for the Highlanders. Carrying 4 players, even 5 players, good 10 metres after a blockbusting run through about 4 tackles, and then has just an arm just stretching out of this big bunch of players and planting it onto the try line. Of course, half on Nehe Milner-Skudder's boot as well. Some may debate it wasn't a try, but goodness me, if you cannot award a try for that run at least. But in fairness, it did look like it did scuff up the grass as well, so I think it's fair that that was a try. A good call, maybe a touch biased, but holy hell, that run, that was monstrous, and it led to great things for Elliot Dixon, who did pick up man of the match as he had a hand in another later try as well, setting up Naholo into the corner, which was just another spectacular try. But goodness me, how good was that run from Elliot Dixon? I've seen nothing like it. He's a good player. Take nothing away from him in the Maori All Blacks as well, but far out. That was just, you know, moments happen in a World Cup, in a Super Rugby Final, getting a bit ahead of myself there. Moments happen, and they change a game. That was one in the first half, right before half-time. That really hurts. It was 6-5, I think, at that point, and then the converted try. That try, wow, that would just be an absolute kick in the ribs for the Hurricanes, who were right in that game. They scored the try to Ma'anonu, which was a pretty easy, basic sort of try after they did try and complicate things, but quite a lot. They were in the game, though. Heading into the break, They just wanted to probably reset things, go back inside. But no, Elliot Dixon, goodness me, I've seen nothing like that, and that has to be one of the greatest tries, especially of Super Rugby. So we went to half-time. It was 13-5, Lima Sapawanga. He had his kicking boots on, but you have to say, Bonan Barrett was really struggling, and I think the Hurricanes as a whole were struggling, but they were still in the game. We've seen from the try from Nonu that they were still definitely in that game, and it could have gone, second half, anyone's match. It was that close, it was that fast, it was that explosive. One little thing could have changed everything, as we've seen with Dixon, that blockbusting run. So we're in half time, and the stats come up, and I have a little check out of this, and I'm just blown away by these stats. The Highlanders are leading. It did seem a pretty even game, both teams having their fair share of chances and opportunities, but the possession and territory, 68% to the Hurricanes' possession and 67% territory, again, to the Hurricanes. How on earth does this happen? Is this the defence of the Highlanders, the game plan of the Highlanders, just to be pinned down? Not really. The whole half went their way, the Highlanders, and the Hurricanes did come storming back, but they didn't take their chances. Their last offloads were falling down, and it's just unbelievable. 32% of possession and 33% of territory, and you're leading 13-5 at half-time in a grand final. That was just unbelievable how the stats can be skewed like that, and the result completely the other way at the break. So that was at half-time. No one was even had a glimmer of saying either side was going to win this, or either side had secured victory at that point, and right they were. The second half kicked off, and it was just a continuation. The second half didn't get flat, but it did come back down somewhat, a little bit, to a normal pace, although still, compared to a regular game, it was at a hectic pace. So things carried on. Fekitoa started coming into the game. I noticed in the second half a lot more his offloading and his defence, especially his defence, and most notably in the second half, his leadership. That was massive. He was the one out there. He was Aaron Smith 2.0. He was yelling, he was screaming at the players, he was pumping his team up, and that is huge for a player in only, his third or fourth year of Super Rugby, to have that leadership role and that passion in his team. He's an Aucklander, and just to adapt into this culture that the Highlanders have brought in. A lot of these things are about the Highlanders because it's just the way they played. I don't think the Hurricanes knew what had happened. They didn't know what had happened, and they looked like the Waratahs last week, although not that bad. The Hurricanes didn't play badly. The way the Highlanders play put them in situations that they just couldn't make their way out of. That was due to their game plan, once again, which we'll get to at the end of the match here. So second half, and the Highlanders are still on top, but things are starting to even out again now. The Hurricanes are starting to bring their game forward, get some territory like they've had all the first half as well. But man to man, you have to say, the Highlanders were the better team. You compare players, and that's exactly what you get. Naholo versus Savia. That was a big one for me, because I think Savia definitely outplayed Naholo in the round-robin matches that they played against each other. Naholo was found a bit wanting in there, and I think this match, that young man, Waisaki Naholo, has come to the party. He stood up, and he shut down Julian Savia. He didn't let him through. He made the one-on-one tackles as well. Desperate tackles they were. Not pretty, not textbook at all, but he brought the man down. And, well, later on you can say Julian Savia butchered that easy catch and fall over try. Would have really been a turning point in the match. He dropped it. Julian Savia dropped a 2 metre away from try line try. No time do you ever see that from Savia. Like I said on Twitter again, 999,000 times out of a million, he's going to score that try, and he just bombed it. Just bombed it. It was unbelievable. The game was at an absolute peak when Savia lost the ball there. So Naholo stood up man to man. You compare Sopawanga and Barrett. Sopawanga outplayed Barrett again. it was just all one-sided. What is the difference? Aaron Smith made Perenara, who did play well. I have to credit Perenara. He made a lot of breaks. He made a lot of, sniping runs, some good decisions as well. But Aaron Smith, he's just this leader. He's just this colossus of a little man who just runs a game. He directs a game. He controls a game. He dominates a game. And he did overshadow a good performance from Perenara, which, you can't credit Aaron Smith enough for how this game played out. Ben Smith as well was good. But just overall, the Highlanders outshone the Hurricanes in that match. Nowhere did the Hurricanes really get the incentive. Even Nonu against Buckman, the no-name Buckman, the Barracuda from nowhere. He's not even very recognised in New Zealand rugby, but he held his own. That's the big thing. Conrad Smith against Fekitoa, there wasn't too much happening from Conrad Smith. He was dealt with, he was controlled, and it didn't seem like the Hurricanes in any way really got on top of this match. They were just kept down, and the Highlanders just had a bit of a cover over all of their bases, which really is what we've seen from them for the last few weeks. Later on in the second half, Bonan Barrett found his kicking boots as we went into around the 60-minute mark, the hour mark. The Highlanders started to lose a bit of control, I think, of the match, and that is when we seen the game come open. The scoreline was still fairly close, about a try in it at that point as well. Barrett got a couple of kicks. The Hurricanes started to move into another gear. They sort of had a plan B look to come into effect, and it just got a bit nervy. Hurricanes fans were getting a bit back into the game. The crowd was starting to rise up from the ashes of that Elliott try right on the stroke of half-time. And it just changed. The mood changed. The Highlanders, as I throw my pen away, the Highlanders started to look a bit desperate, and things were starting to come unravel. The Hurricanes were storming back, but they couldn't get that try. They just couldn't get that blow right at the end. Of course, then Sopawanga went off injured, which is a bit of a blow. I hope that's not too bad. Said it was about a cramp or something like that. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, the Hurricanes did storm back into it, but the try wasn't there. The elusive score did not come to them. And in the end, the Highlanders went into the control of holding the ball, keeping the ball, and that last 10 minutes, boy, did that fly past as things were really getting tense. It was only 4 points in it at one point before Marty Banks. Yep, another one which a lot of you will probably go, who the hell is Marty Banks? Well, he's a Tasman player coming onto the scene a couple of years ago again. ITM Cup, he's a star player, but, off the bench, he's won a few games for the Highlanders this year, and he come in, slotted a drop goal at about his third attempt after the Hurricanes were just absolutely shooting straight out of that defensive line to nail him 1-1. He made a couple of good line breaks from that opportunity as well. Good awareness from Marty Banks, but in the end, he got the opportunity, a bit of a not really planned play. He found the ball and just hit it sweetly for that nice 3-pointer, like you would have seen if it was Sopawanga on the field. They put it back out to 7 for the last few minutes, and they just come home nicely, put it in the forwards' hands. They drilled it and drilled it and drilled it, and the big men, these no-namers who come on to replace the Highlanders pack, who went with a 6-2 split on their bench as well, which was interesting. Obviously, the forward pack is such a key way for the Highlanders playing at that high pace, but what a match it was. Absolute jubilation for the Highlanders. I could not believe it. I had an inkling that they could win it. I just, like last week, the Waratahs were favourites. On paper, they should win it without too much trouble. But there's always that little chance, and the more we see of this Highlanders team who have just tootled along under the radar, as they say, just pushing their way through, not really pushing up a storm at all, and goodness me, they've really come to the fore now, and they are champions. They are the Highlanders, the Super Rugby champions. It feels good to say that, and you have to say commiserations to the Hurricanes and their fans as well. The best team all season, no question about that, but the Highlanders had to do it all. Hadn't had a break since week 4 of the competition. They had a bye in week 1, so they actually started a week later, and then they had another bye about week 4, I'm pretty sure is what I heard. And then they've played ever since. They've played non-stop every week. Player burnout, say what? These guys, no reputation. They've got it all to work for. They've got it all to play for. and they played week in, week out, and they are champions, and what a champion team it is. There's no superstars in there. Aaron Smith, Ben Smith. Fikatoa is a man of the future. But look at the superstars in this Hurricane side. Look at the superstars in the Waratahs. Look at the superstars in the Chiefs. The three sides that they have shut down through a good game plan, good option taking, and just a leader like Aaron Smith in that number 9 jumper. So post-match we can look at things and things that impressed from my point of view. The Smiths, of course, I expected this to happen. Aaron Smith, he is just a freak. If the All Blacks go on and do well this year, he'll be the reason. If he's in good form come World Cup playoffs, I will be hugely confident. If they're playing that style of rugby as well, I'll be even more confident, because I don't think many international sides can keep up with that speed and pace and that fitness. The All Blacks are all about fitness. They can play 80 minutes at that level they want to play at. Teams struggle with that already. And if they can keep this up a pace, goodness me, Jamie Joseph, Tony Brown, what have you done? You have unleashed an absolute beast for this Highlanders franchise. So the big talkers, the Smiths, they were phenomenal. Ben Smith got quite involved in that game as well, which was good to see him step up to that high level. Elliot Dixon, fantastic. It's great to see that young man step up to the level that so many people have said he is capable of. Naholo, we've spoken about his try-scoring exploits over the season. That wasn't really why I was impressed by him. It was more his defence, more his involvement in the match. He nailed Savia. That was what I was really interested with him. Him versus Savia, I wanted to see who was better, one-on-one. Not really who's better, but how Naholo performed against Savia is probably a better way to word it. Naholo had to stand up. Sure, he was probably going to get blown over a few times, but he had to stand up and make the effort. He did more than that, and he shut Savia down, and that is, 101 of stopping the Hurricanes. For the Hurricanes side of things, it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing for them. They are such a good side. Standouts for them would have to come from Victor Vito, I think, was quite good for the Hurricanes. In the back line, Perenara was fantastic as well. Marshall at the fullback, I've never been too convinced about the Marshalls in a starting capacity at the crunch time matches, both of them, but he was just not quite up to that star-studded level for this match, and it's something that they've struggled with, especially when they put him in at fly half as well. But he's another one who was a bit disappointed in. Savia was, I think, disappointing, although he butchered one try. That could have really changed the match, that one try. Smith and Nonu, of course, last match in a Hurricanes jumper, grand final. You would have loved to give them a trophy just for that, just for the years of service, especially Conrad Smith and his service towards the Hurricanes. But they were good, they were solid, but I think the Highlanders dealt with the stars. The likes of Milner Scudder was wrapped up. He didn't get much space, and he got really crowded from the defence as well. He didn't really get a chance to one-on-one with anyone. We didn't see any of that fancy footwork from him, and they really shut them down. And the Hurricanes forwards were pretty much matched man-to-man. They didn't get much dominance in that area as well. Like I say, Vito was good as well. Broadhurst, that's the one I wanted to mention. Broadhurst was fantastic. How many big runs did he make? Line-out turnovers, he was good as well. Although they did lose a couple, the Hurricanes, of their own throw. But he was brilliant. But most of all, I think it's something that has come up more and more in the last 2 weeks, game plan. Highlanders game plan. Simply the one word that won them this match. It was what they did through the week. Once again, we've seen the drive forward and then the kick into space, pinning back the opposition, and then the Hurricanes are going to run. The Hurricanes have a good back three, but it was knowing and trusting their defence who shut down this counter-attack, and that simply was the game plan for the Highlanders. It was their defence, up against what the Hurricanes could counter-attack with. That was their game plan, and again, it worked against the Waratahs, worked against the Chiefs. I didn't think it would work against the Hurricanes, because they were a better all-round backline counter-attacking side than we've seen from the other two, but it worked. It worked fantastically, and then when the Hurricanes come back into it, you know, they still defended so well. So well they defended, and that is just the game plan of them. The champion team, I should say, always beats the team of champions, and it's what we've seen tonight as well. The Hurricanes very much as well a champion team, but you know, so many superstars in there, and they just could not get it done tonight. They could not get it done. The kicking game of the Highlanders has worked once again. Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown. I think Tony Brown's got a lot to do with it as well. A fantastic display, a fantastic show of tactics, getting it in behind, trusting the defence, and forcing the mistake from the Hurricanes is what did it. Also, Clark Dermody, coach of the forwards, another Southland player when he was playing. You have to credit him a bit as well for the game plan of the forwards. Just, you know, the scrums, they were so good. They didn't lose their scrums, they turned over some. The lineouts were great, they competed, turned some overs, and they just controlled the game. The forwards, as the old cliches go, it always starts in the forwards. Control the forwards, you control the match. What can you say? What do you think? I want to know what everyone else thinks about this. I've talked for far too long already. I have pages of notes here that I've written down that just stunned me with what happened from that match. The Highlanders were too good. They had the game plan, and it's something they perfected during the season. Is that what happened? The Hurricanes thought they had it all set and done. They had the plan, they had the ideas. But the Highlanders have come from nowhere. The unfancied, the underdogs, have pulled it out, and they are the champions. A team that everyone doubted. As Aaron Smith said in the post-match, you know, we have to go out and earn it to be champions. And Fikatoa, I think it was, said as they ran out to the second half, they say we can't do it. They say we're not good enough. Something along those lines. It's all about proving themselves, earning the right to be the champions. That's what they did. And boy, oh boy, who's going to bet against them now? That team is going to be bunched pretty much together next season as well. And the Highlanders come from nowhere. It's almost disbelief that they've accomplished this. But I'm going to wrap it up there. So much in the heat of the moment. Such a fantastic game. Whew, I'm exhausted. I am absolutely exhausted. Thanks everyone for the great conversations on Twitter as well. Thanks for following me on there. Be sure to do that yourself if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new for all these awesome match reports coming in throughout the season. I have plenty more discussions on the rugby coming your way, but man, I'm amazed. I wanted the Highlanders to win in my heart. Twice now I've said that I don't think they will. They've proved me wrong. They've proved millions of people wrong. But in my heart I always wanted them to win. That's where it's happened, that's where it's gone, and a very proud day for the Highlanders fans out there, and congratulations to all the fans, all the players out there, and commiserations to the Hurricanes and their fans as well. They've had a fantastic season. That is it for Super Rugby though. Hopefully I'll be back again soon with a bit of a review of the whole season as a whole. We can look back on to where things happened, but God, the Highlanders. I'm not going to sleep tonight. No way. That is a fantastic game. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you next time. Be sure to leave me your comments on what you think as well. But until next time, take care.